this video is going to be a little different than my usual travel videos. We're on a road trip, or actually it's kind of more of a pilgrimage, and we're in search of great live theater. Now, you may be asking yourself, if that's the case, why aren't you walking down Broadway or London's West End or in Toronto? Why are you driving through these huge open farm fields? Well, we're heading for Southern Ontario, because Southern Ontario is a hotbed of great live theater. Now, it's based basically in two towns. Niagara on the Lake is home to the Shaw Festival, named after George Bernard Shaw. And it's the smaller of the two venues, but it's a charming town with lots to see and do besides the theater. And then we're heading for Stratford, which is the Stratford Shakespeare Festival. Now that's the bigger of the two, and it's a bigger town, and there's a lot going on. Great shops, great museums. So we're going to be seeing probably almost a dozen plays over the course of this video, and we're going to be introducing you to two real travel gems in Southern Ontario. And we're going to be seeing some great shows for a fraction of the price of Broadway or the West End. Stay with us. Now, when you hear the words Stratford and Avon, your mind naturally goes to that charming village in England where William Shakespeare was born. But there's another Stratford upon Avon, right here in Ontario. And this town centers all around the Bard as well. But that wasn't always the case. Stratford was first known as a depot for the construction and repair of steam engines. Later, after the death of steam, it became known as a furniture manufacturing center. But that too soon faded. To help me understand what happened next, I turned to Kelly Monahan, editor of Ontario Stage.
Then what happened in the post-war years, diesel replaced steam engines and the repair facility became redundant. There was this influx of Swedish modern design in furniture. All the furniture companies went out of business, and Stratford was really suffering. And a local journalist named Tom Patterson had this insane idea that since the place was called Stratford and it was on the Avon River, what they needed was a Shakespeare festival. And he convinced Tyrone Guthrie, world-class director, to come over here. He was paid a laughably small sum, but the attraction for him was that he could create this kind of stage that he had envisioned. And this was the first thrust stage in the world. And now it's pretty common throughout the United States and England and all around the world. But Stratford was the very first. And for the first number of seasons, it was done under a tent. And when it rained, rainwater gathered in the tent, and they had to pierce it with a sword to let the water drip through. And so it was a real adventure. And initially, they were importing a lot of their talent. Alec Guinness and Irene Worth were here the first season. Alan Bates has been here. Maggie Smith. And in later years, Christopher Walken and Brian Dennehy. But gradually, they have developed their own homegrown talent, which has been substantial. Christopher Plummer, William Hutt. William Shatner was here in the early days. The place has these world-class actors that you've never heard about before, as well as great directors, terrific scenic designers, and on and on and on. The depth and breadth of theatrical talent in this little corner of the world, it's truly astounding. A lot of Canadian actors move to Hollywood, but a lot of them stay here, and a lot of them make the decision to specialize in doing theater, classical theater. They're trained, they're dedicated, and the result is that you'll see Shakespeare up here of a quality that I'm not used to seeing in the United States. What Stratford did some years back, they instituted what's called the Birmingham Conservatory, where they take young professionals who've been professionals for a number of years and who have made a decision to specialize in classical theater, and they put them through what I gather is a fairly rigorous 2-year program teaching them how to handle iambic pentameter and so forth and so on. The result is that back in the United States, when I was going to go see a Shakespeare play that I was unfamiliar with, I had to sit down and read it first if I had any hope of following what was going on. You do not have to do that here. It's astonishing the way these actors make Shakespeare seem completely natural and colloquial, as if it was written yesterday.
But look, even when it's exquisitely done, Shakespeare isn't to everyone's taste. I get that. But almost everybody loves great musicals. And we saw fabulous productions of Guys and Dolls and Something Rotten, which is a wonderful musical that sends up the whole idea of worshiping the bard, and has a showstopper number called I Hate Shakespeare. And we also saw moving productions of Waiting for Godot and Death of a Salesman. I mean, there's something for everybody up here, no matter what your theatrical taste. But it's not just the 3 theaters of the Stratford Festival that keep you here. The town offers plenty of reasons to linger between performances. On the water, locals and visitors alike take to Lake Victoria and the Avon River by kayak, paddle boat, or tour launch, enjoying Stratford at a gentler pace and from a unique perspective. During the summer, the popular Art in the Park transforms the city's parkland into an open-air gallery, showcasing the work of artists and artisans from all across Ontario and the rest of Canada. Just a short stroll away, the Shakespearean Gardens provide a quiet interlude, with flowers and plants mentioned in Shakespeare's plays and creating a living tribute to the bard. And downtown Stratford is made for wandering, with independent shops, galleries, and cafes tucked into handsome Victorian storefronts. After a day on the water, in the gardens, or exploring downtown, another Stratford tradition awaits. For many visitors, the final act is played out at the dinner table, where an impressive collection of restaurants has made this small city one of Ontario's richest culinary experiences. Kelly Monahan explains.
And speaking of riches, Stratford is a tremendous foodie destination. Their equivalent of the Culinary Institute of America is located in town. And since apples tend not to fall too far from the tree, there's some really, really world-class restaurants here.
The town is full of great restaurants, funky shops, and even the world's smallest cinema that plays vintage movies with lots of discussion before and after. It's a theater lover's paradise.
I'm an artist by trade, and I like culture. You know, I love the theater, I love the visual arts, I love music, and Stratford has all of that. We started doing little amateur film festivals in town, always trying to find a spot to host it though, you know. Wouldn't it be fun to be able to host things instead of annually, and you know, a bigger event, maybe, you know, doing something smaller, but all throughout the year. Somewhere along the way I thought, oh, this could be a lot of fun, I should make it look like a tiny theater. And then we came across the Guinness World Record, and that was what, you know, that was the turning point where I had to decide. They wanted us, it couldn't just be a screening room at the back of your gift shop. It had to have a, you know, concession, you had to have ticketed events, you had to be running it publicly.
The night my wife and I went, we caught a screening of the 1973 Bogdanovich classic, Paper Moon, starring Ryan O'Neal and his daughter, Tatum. The night began with an interesting talk from a local cinephile about the movie's black and white technique and Tatum O'Neal's Oscar-winning performance. I asked Lee what it was like to run a movie theater in a town full of live theaters.
The support of our community across the board has been incredible. You know, it's just a matter of getting people out again, right? Especially post-COVID and in a world that is, I don't know, it's just gone off the rails. Getting people out again and talking in person and finding some common ground and real world conversations. And in which case, like, we provide a small opportunity for that, right? It's like, it's a film. You don't have to necessarily leave and talk about the film, but at least the people are talking, right? So I think all I want is to see more people out and, like, you know, utilizing spaces that aren't going to be there if they don't use it.
On non-show days, we explored the area around Stratford. Take a left at Falstaff Street and go beyond the corner of Christopher Plummer Drive and Romeo Street, and you're on your way to the Perth Stratford Museum. For such a small rural museum, it's really well done, with exhibits about the railroad era, the early history of the town, and sacrifices the area made during both World Wars. Now, long before the theater festival started, Stratford was known for a famous band of puppeteers, with some really interesting examples of their handiwork. But the most surprising thing was the town's claim to pop music fame.
Now, for most of us, Stratford is best known for its Shakespeare festival, but for the younger crowd, it might be better known as the home of Justin Bieber. This is where he grew up, and there's a whole wing in the museum, in the county museum, dedicated to his exploits.
We pushed further west until we hit the shores of Lake Huron, in a township appropriately named Blue Water. There we had lunch in a town called Bayfield, a charming little community that was once a busy little transportation hub. From there, we swung back past Stratford to an irresistibly named little burg, where we stocked up with a growler of local ale. Then we hit the mother of all farm markets, where, as the name might imply, we went hog wild with loading up provisions for our last dinner in our apartment that night. Speaking of our digs, we had a very nice one-bedroom apartment on the top floor of the Perth County Inn. The view from the bedroom was killer, and it also let in aromas every morning at 5 o'clock from this place, right underneath our window. Now, I don't know about you, but the smell of baking bread and croissant is enough to drive anyone off a low-carb diet. And I have to confess, I'm no exception. So, for the couple of weeks we were in town, I was probably one of Milo's best customers.
Love the Aussie painting. Nice touch.
And we always picked up a coffee here to go with him, right next door to our apartment entrance. On the other side of the entrance was the Relic Lobby Bar, where we'd often stop by for a drink after a matinee or a day's exploration, and enjoy a Cuban-inspired cocktail made by the owner, Ulysses, or one of his staff. Tonight, we're headed out to Lake Victoria for something they call Lights on the Lake. It's where townsfolk light up their kayaks and canoes and paddle the lake in support of a good cause. In this case, it was to raise funds for breast cancer research. It was not only a good cause, it was a magical way to end our visit to Stratford. The next morning, we headed south towards home. But we had one more stop and 2 more shows to see. As we approached our destination, the ride itself kind of unfolded like a play in 3 acts. First, the roar of Niagara Falls. Immense, powerful, impossible to ignore. If you've never been here, it's worth a half day at least. Then come the vineyards. Mile after mile of neatly tended vines reveal why this corner of Ontario has become synonymous with fine wines. Finally, the curtain rises on Niagara on the Lake itself, a picture-perfect town of flower-filled avenues, elegant 19th century architecture, and enough charm to earn it a reputation as one of Canada's prettiest towns. We grabbed a burger at an atmospheric pub and got ready for the next day. Long before it became a destination for theater goers and wine lovers, Niagara on the Lake was one of Upper Canada's earliest communities. Settled in the late 18th century, and rebuilt after the War of 1812, its beautifully preserved streets still reflect another era. When the Shaw Festival opened here in the early 1960s, it found the perfect setting. Together, the town and the theater grew into something greater than either could have become alone. A place where visitors come for the performances, but fall in love with the town itself. Some shops sell souvenirs. Beau Chapeau sells personality. With hundreds of handcrafted hats lining the walls, it's one of those rare places where you can experiment with every sort of headwear to bring out the real you. Beyond the showroom lies a traditional workshop where skilled hands still clean, reshape, repair, and restore well-loved hats, preserving a craft that has all but disappeared from everyday life. We caught a couple of shows here. Performed with the same level of skill and expertise as Stratford. And they were hilarious and suspenseful. Mr. Shaw would be quite pleased, I would think. Niagara on the Lake invites you to slow down and sample small-town life the way it might once have been. And that includes going to the drugstore. The Niagara Apothecary is a museum that is a beautifully preserved snapshot of Victorian Canada. Stepping inside is like opening a time capsule. Polished wood, antique remedies, and rows of glass apothecary jars stand in stark contrast to today's locked glass cases at the CVS. The vast array of ailments these elixirs promise to cure is a reminder that these small towns once depended on their local pharmacists as much for a little hope in a bottle as for an actual cure.
So Stratford put itself back on the map thanks to William Shakespeare, while Niagara-on-the-Lake rediscovered itself through George Bernard Shaw. In different ways, both of these Ontario towns found their voice through theater, and together, they remind us that some of the most enduring stages in the world aren't built in cities at all, but in places where art becomes part of everyday life.